Hello and a very warm welcome. In this part of our discussion, we'll talk about the web interface for the Snowflake. In the new web interface, the Snowflake is typically able to handle the modern high performance web applications very effectively. We'll see the different roles for the user which has been allocated, so how you can switch. Then we'll understand the database option. We'll also see the data marketplace. In the compute resources, we'll see the query history, warehouse, and the resource monitors. And finally, we'll see how you can manage your account, and we'll see a quick shortcut to Snowside, which is basically a new workspace area. So let's get started. Now, when you log into the Snowflake, this is the default page you will get to see, which is your worksheet area. In the worksheet area, you can run your queries. If you can see, there are some default databases which are already configured for your worksheet. And if you want, you can actually start interacting with these databases. If you want to come up and create a new worksheet, so you have an option here with the add button with which you can create a new worksheet. You can simply rename it as per your choice. Maybe this is for my application one. Now you can even close your worksheets and whatever the queries you are running in your worksheets, so they will automatically be loaded inside your history. Now let us move to something known as active roles and how you can switch. If there are more than one roles which has been granted to you, you can change the active role in your current session. So you need to just navigate to the top right hand side where you are already logged in. So you get to see an option called switch the role. Now the active role will determine the databases or the tables and various other objects which you can see and the actions you can perform on them. So you got organization admin, public security admin, system admin, and the user admin as different roles. Now, since we have logged in as an account admin, so you will not be able to switch the roles. So what we need to understand and note here is that for this web interface navigation, it could be a case that it can include some pages that the active roles will not have the permissions to access. So the page will not display any data accordingly. Now, in the next part, let us move towards something known as the databases. So databases, if you can see here, right, it is going to help you to perform few of the actions when we click on the databases tab here. So on the databases, you will be able to explore the databases. So what you can see is the list of databases, and you can simply select the database and automatically the objects would be displayed for that particular database. So let me try to come here and hit on the sample Snowflake sample data, and let's click on it, and what you see is the list of tables which are loaded for your database. Now, of course, for the access and the permissions, we can even control for these database and database objects. We can have some a view on the privileges that have been granted on the objects to role and group the listings by role or privilege. And we can, if you can see on the right hand side, we can also do something known as grant or revoke privileges on some objects, right? So if you click on the grant privileges, you would be able to see that privileges to grant and grant privileges to as a role. So you can, if you have given the roles and if you have given the privileges, you can even revoke them. Now this is a quick part how you are able to explore something known as your database, and when you will come up with the database which is showing you the list of tables, let us try to see one of the tables, and I'm just going to maybe choose like orders. So when we load the table, you get to see that it has column names with the data types coming up. So in the views section, you'll be able to see various different views created, and as per that, you can further proceed. Then you have schemas for your tables, and then so on and so forth. The other options also follow down. Now, with the databases, we also have something known as shares. So in the shares, you would be able to come up and create your database for your secure share, right? So if I'll say inbound or outbound as two options, it's gonna filter the data accordingly. And if I'll come up and click on the create, so this is how you can simply create your name, the database, and you can select your tables and views. So your secure share is generally a package which will comprise of some database object, and it will also contain whatever the kind of data you wish to share. And this can be set up from clicking the create button. Now let us move ahead to something known as Snowflake Data Marketplace. Now with the data marketplace, you will get an access and you can query some available data sets and services to drive some informed data driven decisions. The data providers can publish the data sets, or they can even make data analytics services available to the Snowflake customers. So that is how the data consumers can securely access the live and the governed shared data sets directly from their Snowflake account, and you can even receive the automatic updates in the real time. So let us now click on the explore the Snowflake data marketplace and see what we got here. So we are totally navigated to a new console page, if you can see, right? So it's app.snowflake.com. And here in the marketplace, you are able to see that we have various different data providers. So you can search and you can work on the basis of categories, right? So here we are with the list of providers coming up. So let us close this, and now we'll be moving ahead to something known as managing the compute resources. So let me come back to the Snowflake home window. Now the compute area in the web interface can help us to perform few of the actions. The first thing in the compute resources is known as this query history. With the query history, you will be able to view the details of whatever the queries are executed in the last 14 days. And we can explore the execution plan of the queries as well. So for every query, there is going to be a query ID and there is going to be a SQL text, right? So who user has executed the query, what was the duration, start time, end time, and so on and so forth. Now we have various different filters to work on. If you can see, the filters include on the basis of status, then warehouse, duration, end time, session ID, SQL text, query ID, statement type, and the query tag. And then the corresponding criteria can be through is, and accordingly we can apply the filter and extract our query. So query history is one thing which you get as a shortcut over here, right? And this falls under the compute resources. Now the second thing which falls under the compute resources is something known as warehouses. Now warehouses is where you will be maintaining your databases. So here with the warehouses, you can view the set of warehouses and you can even explore the details of individual warehouse. So for example, we do have a default warehouse, and if you just click on it, so you get to see the entire statistics coming up for your warehouse as the load over time and few other parameters for the statistical part. Now you can create a new warehouse, if you can see here, right? So you can give a name for your warehouse. It works on something known as the compute resource. So you need to choose the compute resource, and every compute resource is going to have some credits per hour. So we have an option so that the your financial budget can be optimized. You can choose the auto suspend part, right? And you can manage it, so how it's gonna suspend. So with this, you can simply come up and create your warehouses. So once you have your warehouses created, right, you can even give them the access control. That's like view the privileges that have been granted on individual roles. Then you can grant or revoke the privileges. Now for your databases, if you could have observed, right? So if I need to create a database, right, so I can create a database right away in my warehouses as well. Now the third thing in the compute resources is something known as resource monitors. So let me come to the account, and here we are with something known as resource monitors. So you can create your resource monitors from here. You can give a name, then you can give a credit quota, right? So how many credits you want to come up and use for your cycle limit. So what can be the monitoring type? Is it going to be on the account or is it going to be on the warehouse? Then what warehouse you want to work on, right? So this is the default warehouse in which your default databases are being already configured for you. Then for your actions and notification, you can work on when to be notified and when to be suspended for some immediate notification. So you can just mention the percent of your credits. Now for the resource, compute resources, so what you got query history, you got warehouses, and in the account you got something known as resource monitors to look onto the compute resources. Now next, let us come back to the account, and for the account, the very first thing is usage, which is going to give you the current month expenses or the charges for your account which have been incurred for the data storage, the virtual warehouses, which typically nothing are the compute resources, and also it includes the cloud services. Now if you wish to explore the entire structure, how you gonna come up and get the accounting part, so you need to refer to the documentation. Next, let us try to come here to something known as billing. So in the billing, you can add or change your credit card associated. Now, as of now, it's a free trial account. So for the free trial account, there is a no card by default link. But once this trial account is expired, you need to come up and link your billing account. Next, we got something known as users. Now, users are the one who are actually using your Snowflake account, right? So here you can view the set of users and explore the details of individual users. If you can see here, we have the entire details coming up. So when was the last login and at what time the user was created. So if you want to create some users, you can click here on the create button. You can give user a name, a password, and of course we do have some advanced and the preferences for your users which you can configure. So users can be managed through the users page. Then we got the roles where you can give your users the roles, and you can also come here and create a role as per your requirement. So customization on roles is also something which you can do. So nextly, we got something known as policies, or you can even say network policies, right? So network policies can help you to come up and create, activate, modify, and drop the network policies. So what and all are the IP address which you want to allow, what you want to block. So you can mention that. And other than it, you can also create as many as network policies as per your requirement just by clicking on the create button. Now, if you have noticed, so for every UI, you do have something known as show SQL link coming up, which typically would mean that once you have entered the entire details, right? So show SQL will give you a SQL query which can be executed, right? Let's say a name maybe my network. I'll just try to now say, okay, we need one IP address. So we'll just use something here and there. So you can see now, so for every UI operation which you're trying to create, right? So you do have a SQL query which you can execute right away in your query engine, right? So let's see where. So here, when you come back to the Snowflake, you get to see you have a query editor and you can execute the query here. So let me come back to the account. So the next thing is sessions, where you will be able to see what and all are the sessions, for your users, various users, and which are currently open in the account. Then resource monitors you have already seen, right? So we do have something known as reader accounts. With the help of reader accounts, you can enable the various providers to share your data with the consumers, right? So generally for the Snowflake customers. So all in all, Snowflake UI is not that complex and it is very much user friendly, right? So other than that, if you want any additional let's say support, you can just go with something known as help here, and you can visit the community. And if you see here, you have the documentation link coming up as well. In the download part, right, you'll be able to see various different you can say the tools or the libraries which can be used for the Snowflake connectivity and all. So it is already given here. So you can right away download them. Let us take an example. If you wanna work with the Java, so you do have a JDBC driver. So all the information on Maven or Oracle Java or the OpenJDK Java is already given here. Now in the notifications part, you can configure the notifications, which generally is in the settings, and you can also access your settings from the preferences tab here. So let's go to the notification and to the settings. And what you can note here is that for the journal account, right? So this is your account details, but when it comes to the notifications, so you can possibly set what kind of notification you are expecting. Do you want a notification on the web, or you want email, or you are expecting all of them, right? So for example, we can configure it to the web. So any notifications which will be receiving can be received right away on your web account. Now with this part, let us lastly try to come up and step to something known as Snowsight, if you can see here. So Snowsight is the SQL worksheet replacement, which is designed to support the data analyst activities. Now, in this new web interface, other than the classic interface of the Snowflake, so this option is right away given, but when you tap on your Snowsight, right, it opens up into another UI page, right? So by default, the Snowsight will be enabled for the account admins only. So which means that enabling the Snowsight for all the roles in your account would require some one-time setup, which means that you need to first of all open your Snowsight, and then you need to enable the worksheets and the dashboards. Let us click on enabling the worksheets and the, yeah, so here we go. Now you can click on the worksheet by saying add the worksheet, if you can see, right? And then you can create your worksheets and you can work in the same way. The only difference here is that whenever you are trying to come up and have your Snowsight, so some of the internal Snowflake objects are automatically populated for you. If you can see, the database is coming up, right? So they are by default coming up, and so you get a security integration, you get the database, you get the user, and you get the roles automatically configured here. So all the internal objects, they are typically used to cache some query results in an internal stage when you are using your account, and this cache data is pretty much encrypted and protected by the key hierarchy for the account. So Snowsight is another important option which is available with the data analysis behavior, and you can access it through Snowsight tab here. So that is what we got all in all when we are talking about the web interface of the Snowflake. So I hope you enjoyed the part of it. Thank you so very much, and I'll see you in the next session. Bye bye.